There are moments in the year when the energy of the world shifts so quietly that most people never notice. Yet those who are aware feel it immediately. March 12-13 is believed by many ancient traditions to be one of those rare 48-hour windows when spiritual forces become unusually active. In these hours, the unseen world can feel closer than ever. Some will ignore the signs, some will laugh at them, but a few will recognize the signals and protect their spirit. Today, I will share 3 signs you must never ignore during this time, and the deeper wisdom behind them, so that your mind remains clear, your energy protected, and your path undisturbed. Many people move through life believing that every day is exactly the same as the one before it. The calendar changes, the numbers move forward, but the deeper rhythms of existence often go unnoticed. Yet if you look back through ancient traditions, you will discover that wise observers of life, monks, mystics, and spiritual seekers, never viewed time as something flat and ordinary. They understood that time moves in cycles, much like the seasons. There are moments of quiet growth, moments of challenge, and moments when the invisible forces of the world seem to become more active than usual. In many spiritual traditions, certain days of the year were observed very carefully, not because of superstition, but because people noticed patterns. They noticed how human emotions could become stronger during particular periods. They noticed how conflicts appeared more easily, the strange coincidences seemed to increase, and how the mind itself became more sensitive to the unseen aspects of life. When these patterns repeated year after year, wise individuals began to treat these moments with greater awareness. March 12-13 is often spoken about in mystical circles as one of those rare windows in the cycle of the year. A short period where spiritual sensitivity may arise and where the boundary between clarity and confusion becomes thinner for those who live without awareness. But it is important to understand something very clearly. The energy itself is not good or evil. Energy simply amplifies what already exists within you. If a person carries peace, discipline, and a calm mind, then even intense moments of energy will only strengthen their clarity. But if someone lives with fear, anger, jealousy, or inner chaos, these same moments can magnify those emotions. It is like wind touching a fire. If the flame is small and controlled, the wind helps it grow into light. But if the fire is wild and uncontrolled, the wind only spreads destruction. This is why ancient teachings never focused on fear. They focused on awareness. When you become aware of the cycles around you, you stop moving blindly through life. Instead, you begin to observe your thoughts more carefully. You begin to notice your reactions, your emotions, and the subtle shifts in your environment. Most people ignore these things. They rush through their days distracted, pulled by noise, by technology, by endless thought. And because their mind is constantly scattered, they become vulnerable, not to some mysterious outside force, but to their own lack of presence. The wise person understands that awareness itself is protection. When you are fully present, your mind becomes steady like a mountain. And when the mind is steady, outside influences lose their power over you. So when certain days arrive that carry stronger spiritual currents, the goal is not fear. The goal is clarity, because the one who walks with awareness will move through any cycle of time without losing their center. If there is one thing that ancient wisdom teaches again and again, it is this: the greatest weakness a person can have is not outside them, but inside their own mind. People often imagine that negative forces come from somewhere far away, from mysterious places or hidden enemies. But in truth, the door that allows negativity to enter is almost always opened from within. A restless mind, a fearful heart, and uncontrolled emotions create the perfect environment for confusion to grow. Think about how easily the human mind can be influenced. One small rumor can spread fear. One negative thought can ruin an entire day. One moment of anger can destroy relationships that took years to build. The mind is powerful, but when it is undisciplined, that power turns against the person who carries it. This is why the ancient teachings never focused first on fighting external darkness. Instead, they focused on mastering the inner world. During spiritually sensitive periods, times when emotions and awareness may become stronger, an uncontrolled mind becomes even more vulnerable. When a person already carries doubt, stress, jealousy, or resentment, these feelings can become amplified. Suddenly, small problems feel enormous. simple misunderstandings turn into conflict. Thoughts begin to spiral, and the person loses their sense of calm. But it is important to understand that negativity rarely attacks strength. It looks for instability. Just like water naturally flows toward the lowest point, negative influence moves toward the mind that lacks balance. When someone lives in constant distraction, when they jump from thought to thought without awareness, their inner energy becomes scattered. And scattered energy is easy to disturb. This is why disciplined traditions place so much importance on stillness. Not because silence is mysterious, but because silence reveals the condition of the mind. When a person sits quietly, they begin to see how restless their thoughts really are. They notice how quickly the mind moves from fear to desire, from anger to imagination. Without training, the mind behaves like a wild horse running in every direction. But once awareness begins to grow, something changes. Instead of being dragged by every thought, the person begins to observe their thoughts. They notice emotions without immediately reacting to them. They become less controlled by the noise inside their own head. And when this inner stability develops, something very powerful happens. The mind becomes difficult to disturb. Words from others lose their ability to provoke. Negative environments lose their influence. Fear loses its grip. This is the real protection that wise teachers have always spoken about. Not charms, not rituals, not superstition, but the quiet strength of a disciplined mind. Because when your thoughts are clear and your awareness is steady, no outside force can easily control you. And the mind that cannot be controlled, cannot be conquered. One of the first things people often notice during spiritually intense periods is a sudden shift in their emotions. It can happen quietly and without warning. A person may wake up feeling strangely uneasy, irritated, or overwhelmed even though nothing in their external life has changed. The day may look normal, the environment may be calm, yet inside there is a subtle storm moving through the mind. Most people react to this immediately. They assume something is wrong around them. They blame another person, a situation, or an event that happened earlier. But very often, the real cause is not outside at all. The human mind is extremely sensitive to subtle changes in energy, stress, and environment. When the mind is not fully aware of itself, these inner movements can feel confusing and even frightening. This is why sudden emotional disturbance is one of the first signs you must learn to recognize, not as a threat, but as a signal to slow down and observe. When irritation appears without a clear reason, when anxiety rises out of nowhere, when the heart feels heavy even during ordinary moments, the wise response is not reaction. The wise response is awareness. Imagine the mind as a clear lake. When the water is calm, you can see straight to the bottom. Everything is visible and peaceful, but when strong winds pass over the surface, the water becomes disturbed. Waves form, and the surface becomes cloudy. In that moment, the lake has not changed its nature. It has only been temporarily disturbed. The same is true for the human mind. Emotions are like waves. They rise, they move, and eventually they pass. But most people make a mistake. They believe every wave is permanent. When anger appears, they assume they must act on it. When fear appears, they believe the fear must be true. When sadness comes, they begin building stories around it. And this is where suffering begins. During times when emotional sensitivity increases, the mind can easily create illusions. A small misunderstanding suddenly feels like betrayal. A simple problem begins to look like disaster. Thoughts multiply quickly, and the person becomes trapped inside their own mental storm. But the disciplined person practices something very different. When emotional disturbance appears, they pause.